Welcome to this new lecture on mathematical logic. In the previous lectures, we have essentially talked about propositional logic. Just to have a recap, a proposition is an assertion or a statement which has a truth value of either true or false. Say for example, if I say today is Monday, so this particular statement will either have a truth value of true or false depending upon what day of week it actually is. We have also seen the various connectives which were used to combine two or more atomic propositions in order to make a compound propositions. Just to have a recap, the various connectives were conjunction, disjunction, XOR, negation, implication and biconditional. These are the various connectives which are essentially used for combining atomic propositions to make compound propositions. We have also seen the various laws of inferences which were used to check the validity of an argument. Once again, an argument is a series of propositions called premises followed by a consequence, and we check the validity of the premises either with the help of a truth table method or with the help of a rules of inferences. So till now whatever we have talked about was about the propositional logic. Today we are going to go one step further and we'll enter into the world of predicate logic. We'll first see what are predicates and then we'll see what are basically predicate logic basically uses quantifiers. So we'll begin with understanding what a predicate is and then we'll see what a quantifier is and how to use and manage a quantifier. So let's start. So predicate logic essentially is an extension of propositional logic. If you remember, in the very beginning of propositional logic, we discussed that a statement like this cannot be a proposition. X is greater than 1 cannot be a proposition because depending upon the value of x, this statement can be either true or false. What I mean is there is an ambiguity in the value of x depending upon in the value, the truth value of this statement depending upon the value of x. So this was not a proposition. Similarly, if I have a statement like x plus y is equal to 10, this again cannot be a proposition. Why? Because I cannot say whether this statement is true or false until unless I know the values of x and y. So the predicate logic is an extension of propositional logic that permits concise reasoning about whole classes of entities. Now this x and y were not simple numbers, they were actually variables. The variables that can take on a number of values from a universe of discourse. So such statements can be handled with the help of propositional logic, as these statements are neither true or false until unless we specify the value of the variable. There is yet another area where propositional logic fails and we have to revert to or we have to resort to predicate logic is statements like this. If I say all men are mortal and I know that Socrates is a man, can I say or can I infer that Socrates is mortal? No. This is a statement. This is a statement. Now can I use a propositional logic to infer this? No, I cannot. This cannot be expressed by using propositional logic. Now why? Because this men and mortality, Socrates and men, here we are talking about subject and object, the object and its properties essentially, and properties are not covered or cannot be expressed by using propositional logic. So therefore we need some language, some method by which we can express the objects and their properties, and that language or that method is provided to us by using the predicate logic. Now essentially, if I say this statement, the dog is sleepy. Now this statement has two parts. Now this is a proposition. There are no variables over here. This can either have a truth value of true or false depending upon whether the dog in question is actually sleeping or not sleeping. So this is actually a proposition, but this proposition has two parts. First is the dog. It is called the subject. It is the object or the entity about which this proposition is talking about. So this first part of the proposition is called the subject, and then this is the part is sleeping. Now this part is called the predicate part. The predicate essentially means a property. It is a property that the subject can have. If I say Ram can dance, similarly, now this is the subject about which this proposition is talking about. Once again, this proposition can have either a truth value of true or false depending upon the particular person Ram and his expertise in dancing. So Ram can dance is a proposition. Ram is the subject of the proposition, whereas can dance is the predicate. It's the property that the subject can have. Now once again, this entire proposition becomes true or false depending upon whether this subject possesses this property or not. So predicate logic basically extends the propositional logic by using variables. Say for example, I can say, if I say Ram can dance, I can say Sham can dance, I can say, let us say Sohan can dance, again let us say Mohan can dance, right? So all these statements are actually propositions. This is one subject, another subject, another subject, another subject. If you see the predicate in all the four things, the property that I'm talking about is the same. So I can represent this entire thing by using a variable. Let us say X can dance. Now this is no longer a proposition. Why? Because it cannot have a truth value of either true or false until unless you know the value of X. Say for example, if I assume the value of this is true, this is true, this is false, and let us say this is again true. So depending upon the value of X, if X is Ram, then this now becomes a proposition with a truth value of true. If X is Sham, this now becomes a proposition with a truth value of true. But in itself, X can dance is not a proposition, it's a predicate using a variable. So propositional logic predicate logic extends the propositional logic by adding variables and predicates. Now we represent this, or we designate this by using P of X or Q of X, R of Y, M of X, comma Y, and so on. So this can be represented as, let us say, P of X, where P is the predicate and X is the variable. The P predicate is representing can dance. We also use quantifiers. We'll talk about quantifiers in a little while, but quantifiers actually specify whether a predicate is true on the entire universe of discourse, on the entire set for which a particular predicate is defined or not. So propositional functions are a generalization of propositions. Can contain variables and predicates. P of X, variables stand for and can be replaced by elements from their domain. Say this X is a variable and it has a domain of Ram, Sham, Sohan, Mohan, or it can be a variable which has a domain of all the students who are viewing this lecture. So that can be the entire domain. So that domain, from that domain, X can have any value, and then this predicate will become a proposition having a truth value of either true or false. Now predicate is modeled as a function P. See, for example, once again, Px, X is sleeping. We use the example, the dog is sleeping. Now this can be modeled as P of X, where it says X is sleeping. This X is a variable and this is the predicate. Now this can be modeled as a function. Let us say this is the function and this is the variable on which the function is operating on. The result of applying a predicate P, now this is an important point, the result of applying a predicate P to an object is a proposition. Say for example, if I say X can dance, right? If you remember in the previous slide, I said that Ram, Sham and Mohan, in the case of these three people, the proposition was true, and for Sohan it was false. So now if I replace X by, let us say, Ram, If I say x is equal to Ram, then if I represent this as, let us say, P of x as this, and I say x is equal to Ram, now if I say P Ram, this becomes Ram can dance. Now this is no longer a predicate, it has now become a proposition. The result of applying a predicate P to an object x is equal to A. Ram is an object in the domain of the variable x. Remember, we said that the domain of the variable x can be either Ram, Sham, Sohan, Mohan, or it can be the domain of all the students who are watching this video. Now, if I take any name from there, and if I take any person from there and I substitute it in x, then this predicate becomes a proposition. Similarly, say for example, if Px represents x is greater than 1, now this is a predicate. This is a predicate or a propositional function. Now this predicate, if I say x is equal to 3, if I substitute a value for this variable, this now becomes a proposition. P of 3 becomes 3 greater than 1 with a truth value of true. Even if I put x is equal to, let us say, minus 1, then P of minus 1, which says minus 1 is greater than 1, although this is false, but it still is a proposition. It is no longer a predicate, it is a proposition. Please remember, proposition can have a truth value of either true or false. If a proposition is false, it is still a proposition. The predicate here, this is the predicate part. Here, this is the predicate part. This is the predicate part. Now, another important point to consider is that the propositional functions or the predicates can have any number of arguments, can have any number of variables. Say for example, that this is a predicate P of x, y, z. You can see there are three variables here, x, y, z. This might be representing x gave y the grade z. Now x might be the x might have the domain of the teachers, y might have the domain of the students, and z might have the domain of all the possible grades, grade A, B, C, D, or whatever. So this predicate P of x, y, and z, this is the predicate, and these are the three variables x, y, and z. Now this is representing x gave y the grade z. The point here that I want to make is that a predicate can have any number of arguments. Now if I specify x as Mike, y as Mary, z as A, then this predicate now becomes the proposition Mike gave Mary the grade A. Once I substitute the values of the various variables, now this predicate gets converted into a proposition. Right? So the predicate can have any number of variables. Another important point is the universe of discourse. Universe of discourse is essentially the set of all the possible values that a variable that is being used in a predicate can take. Say for example, when I took the example P of x, which said x can dance, and I said that I can be talking about all the people who are watching this video. Now that becomes my universe of discourse. Say for example, if I'm talking about just a particular class, then the students that make up that class becomes the universe of discourse. The collection of values that a variable x can take, it's called its universe of discourse, denoted by UD. Let Px is equal to x plus 1 is greater than x. Now in this particular case, the set of integers z can be the universe of discourse, or the set of natural numbers can be the universe of discourse. So the universe of discourse is the set of all the values that a particular variable can take. Now let us see certain examples. Let us say P of x, y, and z denote that x plus y is equal to z, and u be the integers for all three variables. The universe of discourse is the set of integers z. Now if I say P of x, y, z denotes that x plus y is equal to z. Now if I specify the values of x, y, and z as minus 4, 6, and 2, then x plus y is equal to z, minus 4 plus 6 is equal to 2 is true. See, this was a
predicate P of x, y, z represents x plus y is equal to z. This was a predicate. But once I specify the values for the three variables, this now has become a proposition. And this proposition has a truth value of true, as can be verified. I can say minus 4 and 6, minus 4 plus 6 is equal to 2, so this is true. If I say 5 and 2, 5 plus 2 is 7, so this particular predicate, now this proposition is having a truth value of false. But even if it has a truth value of true or false, but these are propositions. Whereas this 5x7 is not a proposition. Why? Because I'm still having a variable x over here. I have not specified the value of this variable. Once again let's take an example. Here what I'm doing is I am defining another predicate over here, q, as x minus y is equal to z, and once again the universe of discourse is the set of integers. Now I'm using a connectives over here, P123 and Q541. If I say P123, 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Now this has a truth value of true. 541, 5 minus 4 is equal to 1. So this has a truth value of true. So true and true gives me a truth value of true. Once again, if I take P124 and I specify Q540, if I take this example P124 and Q540, P124, 1 plus 2 is equal to 4, this value is false, and Q540, 5 minus 4 is equal to 0, once again this value is coming as false. Implication, if you remember, the implication is false only when the if part is true and the then part is false. If this part is false and this is false, then the implication is true. Once again, P123, see 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, so this becomes true. Implies Q540, 5 minus 4 is 1, here I am specifying it as 0, this is now false. Now the if part is true and the then part is false, so this is false. 124 and x40, once again, as this is not a proposition, I am still using the value x over here, so this is not a proposition. The point to be noted over here is, or the takeaway from this particular slide is, that the propositions that are resulting out of a predicate getting the values of the particular variables can be applied upon by the connectives that we studied in the propositional logic. So I can even combine predicates using the same connectives. Now, another important thing that we talk about when we talk about predicate logic is the quantifier. Quantifier, when we talk about a universe of discourse, now there are many, there can be a number of elements in the universe of discourse, and if I want to specify that my predicate, let us say this is my predicate, if it is true that if the predicate is true for some specific elements of the universe of discourse, or it might be true for all the elements of the universe of discourse, or it might not be true for all the elements of the universe of discourse, if I want to specify things like this, if I want to specify or clarify that how many values from the universe of discourse this predicate is true for, and for how many values it is false, then I have to use a quantifier. So quantifiers use us to quantify or count how many objects in the universe of discourse satisfy a given predicate. So there are two types of quantifiers. First is called the universal quantifier. This is called the for all quantifier. For all. See, this is how you can remember this. This is A written upside down. So for all, or it is also called the universal quantifier. Universal means for all. If I say for all x, p of x, it means that this predicate p of x will be true for all the values of x in the universe of discourse. In other words, I can substitute the x over here from each and every value from the universe of discourse, and this proposition which will be resulting the proposition, it will be true for all the values. Say for example, if I say the universe of discourse is positive integers, right, and if I say the proposition px says x is greater than 0, Now I can say that for all x, p of x. As I know, each and every positive integer is greater than 0. So I can say that for all x from universe of discourse, this predicate will be true. You can take any positive integer, substitute the value over here, and the resulting proposition, let us say x is equal to 5, then 5 is greater than 0. It is true. If I take x is equal to 7, 7 is greater than 0. Once again, it is true. So for any and all values of x from this universe of discourse, this predicate will be true. This is what is meant by the universal quantifier. Second, we have the existential quantifier. Right? This is written as, in a way, a reverse E. It says there exists. It means there exists. Now, if I write there exists px, means there exists an x in the universe of discourse for which p of x is true. What it means is, if I have a universe of discourse and if I'm writing for there exists x p of x, that means there is at least one value. There is at least one value of x from the universe of discourse for which this predicate will be true. Once again, if I say universe of discourse, for the same universe of discourse, I can write there exists x. Now, if I specify another quantifier, let us say qx, such as x is divisible by 3. Now I can say for there exists x, qx. Because q of x is not true for all the values of universe of discourse. See, 1 is not divisible by 3, 2 is not divisible by 3, but if I put in 3, it is divisible by 3. So what it means is, it is true for some values, or at least there is at least one value for which this is true. Similarly, it will be more clear. Let's take another example. Let us define another predicate R of x. Let us say x is let us say prime, and the universe of discourse is, let us say, all even integers. Now I can say there exists x such that R of x. Why? Because there is a value of x which is x is equal to 2 for which R of x is true. But I cannot say for all x Rx. Why? Because if I take positive even integer, let us say 4, for 4 R of x is not true. So these are the two quantifiers. In other words, let's have a again. For all x, px asserts that px is true for every x in the domain, and existential quantifier says that px is true for some x in the domain. Once again, for all x means p of x. Now this is an important part. When is this quantifier false? When is this predicate false? Now this predicate, if I write for all x px, it is true if px is true for all the values of x. But when it is false even if there is even a single value of x which makes p false. If there is a single value of x where p is false. Say for example, if I say let us say the universe of discourse is the set of real numbers, and if I say 1 upon a or 1 upon x, if I write px as 1 upon x, right? Now if I check this out, 1 upon x, it is a real number. Can I say for all x, p of x is true? Now you see, any real numbers can be both negative as well as positive real numbers, but can I say, now if I want to verify if this statement is true or not, this is a statement for all x, px. Now I want to verify whether this is true for all the values of x or not. Now R being an infinite set, it becomes impossible for me to verify it for all the various values. But please remember, you cannot use examples to verify a property, but you can use counter examples to check the violation of the property. Even if I can show a single real number for which this becomes false, x is equal to 0, For x is equal to 0, 1 upon x is no longer a real number. It is no longer even a mathematical number. So I can say that this statement or this predicate is false. So when is this statement false? If there is an x where p of x is false. If I can find even a single, this is called a counter example. Now there exists x px, there is some x for which p is true, then it will be true. But if px is false for all the values, or in other words, if I cannot find any value of x for which p is true, then it will be false. Let's see some examples of universal quantifier. Let us say we are defining a predicate as x is full.
Let us see some further examples of quantifiers. Let Px define the predicate x is full and the universe of discourse be the parking space at the mall. Now the universal specification can be, if I say for all x px, what it actually means is for all the values of x from the universe of discourse, p of x is true. What does p of x say? X is full. Now this can be translated in an informal language as all parking space at the mall are full, or every parking space at the mall is full, or for each parking space, this is a literal translation, for each parking space at the mall, this is the universe of discourse, that space is full. So these are the informal representations of this formal predicate. Let's take another example. Let us say p of x denotes x is greater than 0. If u is the set of integers, then for all x px is false. Why? Because the set of integers involves both the positive as well as the negative integers and 0. So for values of x, 0 or negative values of x, this is false. So I cannot say that px is true for all x. If u is the set of positive integers, then this is true. So these are the examples of universal quantifier. Then universal quantifier, if I want to prove that the universal quantified statement is true, once again let understand, I cannot use examples to verify a predicate, a universally quantified predicate to be true. But what I can do is I can try to find a counter example. If I can find a counter example, then I can say that the universally quantified predicate is false. But if I cannot find a counter example, then I have to say that this statement is true. Let us see a similar example for the existential quantifier. Now in the case of existential quantifier, right, remember this, the existential quantifier looks like an inverted E. I am using the similar predicate, x is full is designated by p of x and the universe of discourse is once again the parking space at the mall. Then the existential quantification of px, which is represented as there exists x px. What it actually means when I say there exists x px, what it means is that there exists at least one value of x from the universe of discourse for which p of x is true. Now how many values are there for which p of x is true is not important. What is important is there is at least one value of x for which this p of x is true. So if I write there exists x px, what it means is in terms of this predicate and this universe of discourse, some parking space at the mall is full. Some parking. Please understand, in the earlier example, if you see, in the earlier example I used the term all when I was talking about universal quantifier. But in existential quantifier, we use the term some. So this is a identifying trait. If you see all or every, terms like or each, if you see words like these, so you can very well understand or you can identify that we have to use a universal quantifier. If I use some, then it means I'm talking about existential quantifier. So then again I can rewrite or I can understand this as like this also. There is a parking space at the mall that is full. There is a parking space. I'm not saying all the parking spaces. There exists or I can say at least one parking space at the mall is full. So this is what is meant by the existential quantifier. Once again, let's take the previous example once again in terms of existential also. When I said that P of x denotes x is less than 0, there I took about x is greater than 0. Here let's take x is less than 0. If if the universe of discourse is the set of all the integers, then there exists x, px is true. Why? Because there are integers for which x is less than 0. Because when I talk about set of integers includes from minus infinity to plus infinity. So all the negative integers, for all the negative integers, this is true. So existentially this is true. If the universe of discourse is the set of positive integers, then this becomes false. Why? Because x less than 0 will not be true for any positive integer, because this actually means x is negative and my universe of discourse is that of positive integers. So this will be false. So in this lecture we have talked about what are predicates and what are the quantifiers. In the next lecture we will see how to convert a little bit longer informal statements into formal statements. Right? Till then, thank you.